What is going on, YouTube? I am Prepper Princess, the author of Living on Almost Nothing. If you are interested in purchasing my book, I will go ahead and leave a link down in the description box below. This is a requested video from one of my Patreon members, Katie, and she wanted to know what I learned both good and bad from my mom and my grandma, and I'm assuming from my father as well. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so first and foremost, from my mother, I learned that it is not a good idea to get married. I have never wanted to get married. I never had dreams or aspirations of walking down the aisle with a wedding dress, and I never will. The problem with relationships is you have to have the same financial goals as your spouse or your significant other, or it's probably going to end in divorce anyway. Now, there are gold diggers on all spectrums, on both sides, male and female. And unfortunately, my mom had a really bad habit of choosing men that were users. They were not gold diggers because my mother had no gold, but they were users. They just used her for free food and rent, and then they would steal from us in order to buy their drugs. Not a very good situation to be around. When it comes to my father, it was a lot of the same problems. He would spend all of his money and all of her money, and she was left with two babies at home with no money for diapers or food, which ultimately ended up leading to their divorce, in addition to other problems. My father had problems with fidelity and with drugs, so that happened. So one of the main things that my mom taught me is it's a better idea for you to, if you want to be safe financially, not to get married. And a lot of people who have been through divorce, I'd say about 80 or 90% of the people I talk to who have been through a bad relationship or who have been through divorce completely agree with that sentiment, and they are like, MGTOW, WGWTOW, like, we're just going our own way, not interested, not gonna happen. And it's true. The stress of relationships can really take a toll on people, and that's completely normal. So it's up to you. What I learned also from my mother is the value of $1. We were po growing up. And let me just put something into context. When I went to college, there was this grant for low-income people. And my mom, who filled vending machines for a living, made $6 too much in the previous tax year. So I didn't qualify for a free education. If she made $6 less, I would have been able to go to college for free. But she made $6 too much. And of course, my father didn't pay child support, so she was a single mom working as many hours as she possibly could just in order to put food on the table and lights on in the house. So it was a really tough situation, and the reason for that was bad relationships and users, essentially. What I learned from my father, what not to do, is not to try to buy the love of your family. So from the age of 12 until he passed away when I was 16, my father was not part of our lives. He did not pay child support from age 2 to 12, and then he showed up and he all of a sudden wanted a relationship with us. So every summer from age 12 to until, well, 3 years, 12, 13, 14, and 15, and then he died when I was 16, so 4 years. We went to visit my father in Ohio for 1 month out of the summer every year. And my dad looked like he had it all together. It is the exact typical thing that I see everywhere. He looked like he had money and success and the perfect family. He had convertibles. He had the tri-level house, 3-bed, 2-bath tri-level house with a huge basement, fireplace, all that good stuff. And yeah, so he had the convertibles, motorcycles, Sea-Doos. He had rich friends. He spent his time golfing. He had the beautiful wife who was a waitress. And he would try to buy our love with that stuff. He would try to convince me and my brother to move with him to Ohio, which makes no sense because they didn't want us, and there's more to that story, but I don't want to get into it. But he would be like, we've got Kings Island, the beach was a water park in Ohio where he lived, and he lived right by Kings Island. We've got Kings Island, we've got the beach, we've got the Sea-Doo. I'll give you a convertible when you turn 16, all this other stuff. And he was really trying to buy our loves. But fast forward to when both of my parents passed away. When my dad died, he had nothing. Not only did he have nothing, he had less than nothing. He had nothing but debt. He had a huge mortgage. He had car payments on all of the cars, motorcycle payment, Sea-Doo payment. He left nothing to his wife or his stepchildren or us, his real children. He left us nothing. And when he passed away, his wife had to sell everything, including the house. She had nothing because he spent all of it. He spent every single penny. And he spent most of his time with his money, looking rich, trying to impress people, but he had nothing. And then over on my mother's side, it's exactly the opposite. She spent her life being poor, looking poor, but when she passed away, she left us a legacy. She left us a very high valued house that was not quite paid off, but again, single mother working as much as humanly possible in order just to keep the lights on and the water going. But she left us a house, and she didn't really have any money except like a little bit in her checking account, but she did not leave us any debt. She didn't leave anything negative behind. So that goes to show you, try to look rich and you have nothing. Don't try to, you're poor, but you have something to give. So that is what I learned from my parents. If you're trying to look rich, you're probably poor. If you're trying to look poor, you're probably rich. And that is something that even a whole bunch of economists and like famous millionaires and billionaires say that sort of thing. She drove a really old car or a really old truck. It was before they were Toyota Tacomas. She had a Toyota Tacoma, but it wasn't a Tacoma because they didn't make them. It was like an 87. And, my father had the Mazda Miata convertible and all this. It was just, and he had the Honda Shadow, I think it was, motorcycle, and then like the Sea-Doos. It was just, it was a mess. So that is the most important thing that I learned just from watching my parents. In terms of learning actual hands-on stuff, my mom taught me the value of $1. She taught me not how to save money, how to shop correctly in order to not spend as much money. She taught me how that auto dealerships and mechanics charge different rates. She taught me that food costs a different amount at a different store. She taught me about sales, like cyclical sales at the grocery store. She taught me how to cook and bake because she was working so much. Sometimes I had to learn how to cook for myself. And we were latchkey kids. It was like practically Gen X growing up in the 80s and 90s. When we were 7, we were walking to and from school by ourselves, and then after school we'd go walk to our babysitters, and then when mom got home we would walk home when we were 7. I don't even remember how I learned how to get home. Probably my brother. And then by the time we were 10, we no longer needed a babysitter. We cooked our own food, we baked our own cookies, and we were at home, or we weren't really at home that much. We were always out playing, but we had access to the house. And by the age 10, we were kind of on our own, which was until mom got home, which was, cool. We made bad choices and didn't get caught, but we turned out into pretty awesome people. From my grandma, and when my mom passed away, her and I were on this savings kick, and I feel like she cheated. Like, I'd be like, look, Mom, I saved $300 this week. And then she'd put money into, we had a joint account together. Then she'd put like $312 in it. She's like, I saved $312 just so she could beat me. And then from my grandma, I learned a really good deal about high interest earning CDs. I learned about credit card churning and bank churning and credit card and bank churning from my grandma. My mom didn't even know that stuff. She didn't know about churning your bank account so that you could make money off of the accounts. Like that back then, they were offering like $500. If you make 20 purchases using your debit card in the first 30 days, we'll give you $500. So you're just like, okay, like you make those transactions anyway. So you go over there, you make the transactions, and you make $500. And then the next month you go and do it again for like $200 or $300. And then you can make thousands of dollars a year churning bank accounts and credit cards. It's crazy. And then she taught me about higher interest CDs. Some CDs have higher interest than others. Some savings accounts or bank accounts have higher interest than other accounts, and you can earn more money for free just by putting your money in these specific accounts instead of these ones. Really big deal. So I learned a really great deal from my parents, not just from watching them, but also from listening. And if you're a parent, beat it into your kids, like beat it into them. Show them the amortization schedule of your home mortgage and show them this is how much we put down. This is why our house doesn't really cost $300,000. It costs $600,000 at the end because, and then go over your mistakes. It's okay to tell your kids about your mistakes, and trust me, they want to know you're human. So teach them about your mistakes. Like, I wish we would have put 20% down so that we didn't have to pay this PMI that we didn't know we were paying for 18 months, or I wish I would have just waited a little while longer. We could have gotten a better deal or a smaller house or this and that. Teach them. And if they're not listening, make them put away their phone, or their phone's getting taken away, and you're gonna sit down at the kitchen table and you're going to watch this for an hour and a half, and you're not gonna complain because I don't want you to be poor. Okay, I'm gonna stop now. I'm getting a little bit passionate. But yes, teach your kids, do it. All right. Okay, folks, that is what I learned from my parents and my grandma. All right, if you like this video, please be sure, please hit the like or the dislike button. Either one helps the channel, and doing so is really gonna help us with the YouTube algorithm. I'm noticing lately that my videos are not getting recommended or suggested to other people, and I really wanna keep this going. So go ahead and hit the like or dislike button. And if you want to, if you feel so inclined, leave whatever comment below you like. Do what you can with what you've got. Prepper Princess out.